All right, welcome back everyone to the deep dive. We've got a really interesting one today, kind of digging into some recent news. Press release actually just came out from a company, you might not have heard of them. They're called OffsideAI. But the thing that caught our eye, and the reason we wanted to kind of deep dive on this today, is it's all about how AI, artificial intelligence, is really moving beyond just like the theoretical, all this stuff we hear about, and actually into real practical tools that businesses can use.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about AI, right? It's
Yeah.
just this big buzzword. But this press release feels different.
Yeah.
It's less about the hype and more about how AI is going to actually, make a difference for companies right now. So that's why we're digging into it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And Offsite AI, they're not messing around. They're basically laying out their whole vision for these AI-powered applications, but specifically for enterprises.
Exactly.
So, it's not just for like small businesses or individuals. This is like serious, heavy-duty stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Enterprise-grade AI solutions.
And they're tackling a lot of different areas, from customer experience, so how you interact with your customers, to making operations run smoother, which I think everybody is always looking for, and even like those big strategic decisions that keep CEOs up at night.
Like the big picture stuff.
Yeah. So our goal today is to really dig into this press release and try to understand what it actually means for businesses. Because we hear a lot of talk about AI, but what does it actually look like in practice? What are the real benefits? What are the potential pitfalls? Those are the kinds of questions we want to try to answer today. So without further ado, let's jump right in, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. So, when I was reading through this press release, the thing that really struck me, and I'm curious to get your take on this as well, is how laser-focused Offsite AI seems to be on tackling very specific, very common business challenges. Like, these are the things that keep business leaders up at night, right? It's not like some far-off futuristic AI takeover. This is about using AI to solve problems that people are dealing with right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
very practical, which is refreshing to see.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this announcement so compelling.
For sure. So let's start with one that I think everyone can relate to, because customer experience.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, no matter what business you're in, keeping your customers happy is essential. And Offsite AI really hits on those pain points that I think we've all experienced at some point. Inconsistent service, you call a company and you get a different answer every time.
Ugh, the worst.
Yeah. Or those frustratingly slow response times. You send an email, you submit a support ticket, and then you're just sitting there waiting.
Crickets.
Exactly. And then the thing that I think is really tough for a lot of companies is, really understanding each customer's individual needs, like not just treating everyone the same, but really getting that personalized experience.
Yeah, that feeling of being understood.
Yeah, exactly. So they actually give some really interesting examples of how they're using AI to address these challenges head on. So, for example, they talk about these intelligent customer service platforms that can, and this is pretty wild, understand what a customer is saying or even typing, like in a chat, but in plain language.
Yeah, natural language processing.
Exactly. And then they can draw on all this information to provide really personalized support, like 24/7. So no more waiting on hold or waiting for an email response.
And they claim that it can potentially cut down the resolution time for customer issues by as much as 80%.
80%.
80%. That's huge. Obviously, you have to take those claims with a grain of salt, right?
Yeah.
We need to see real world results, but the potential there is pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, if they can pull that off, that would be transformative for a lot of businesses. And of course, the key to all of this is having the right data, right? Like the AI needs to be able to access all this information about the customer, their history, their preferences, in order to really provide that personalized experience.
Absolutely. It all comes down to data.
And it's not just about reacting to problems after they happen, putting out fires. They also talk about this really interesting concept called predictive customer journey mapping.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So this is where the AI is actually analyzing how customers typically interact with a business and then trying to anticipate what they might need or what problems they might encounter, but before they even realize it themselves.
Right, getting ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like that proactive element, reaching out with help or information at just the right moment. That could be a real game changer in terms of building customer loyalty.
Yeah, it's like having a mind reader on your team.
Exactly. And they even give a real-world example of this in action. They talk about this telecom company that implemented one of these AI-powered customer service systems. And what they saw was a 35% drop in call center volume.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's massive, right?
Huge cost savings right there.
And on top of that, they saw a 28% increase in customer satisfaction.
So it's not just about efficiency. It's about actually making customers happier.
Exactly. And that's what I think is so exciting about this. It's not just hype. It's like they're actually showing how these AI solutions are delivering real, tangible results for businesses.
Yeah, it's moving beyond the theory and into practice, which is what we're all about here on the Deep Dive.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about customer experience, but let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the kind of the nuts and bolts of running a business, the operational side of things.
Right.
And in the press release, they talk a lot about what they call operational excellence. And, I think every business leader is always striving for operational excellence.
Of course, it's the holy grail.
Yeah. So what were some of the key challenges that they highlighted in this area?
Well, the ones that really jumped out at me were, processes that aren't as efficient as they could be.
Right.
It's like, there's a lot of waste in a lot of businesses.
Right, yeah.
And then bottlenecks,
Hmm.
resources that are slowing things down.
Those frustrating choke points.
Exactly. And then, the classic problem of making decisions based on intuition or gut feeling rather than solid data.
Or just incomplete information.
Right. Like you're making decisions in the dark.
And then, of course, the constant challenge of adapting to change, right? I mean, the business world is moving so fast these days.
The only constant is change, right?
Exactly. So how do you stay ahead of the curve? How do you stay flexible? Those are big questions.
Yeah, big questions.
So what's interesting is how OffsideAI is actually proposing to use AI to address all of these operational challenges. And again, they give some really specific examples. So for instance, they talk about this idea of autonomous process optimization. So this is where the AI is actually examining your workflows, how things actually get done in your company, and then identifying where things are getting stuck, where the inefficiencies are.
And then it can automatically suggest or even implement smoother ways of doing things.
Right, like AI project manager.
Exactly. It's
Mm.
pretty wild to think about, right?
Yeah. But it makes sense, right? Because AI is really good at seeing patterns that humans might miss.
Yeah, and analyzing huge amounts of data.
Exactly. And then they talk about predictive resource allocation. So this is, imagine being able to forecast the demand for your products or services like really accurately, and then automatically adjust things like staffing levels, inventory, even equipment availability, but doing it in a way that you're avoiding those costly shortages or surpluses.
Right, so you're always one step ahead.
Exactly. And then they even talk about adaptive supply chain applications, which, given everything that's been going on in the world lately with supply chains,
Oh, yeah. Huge topic.
that sounds incredibly valuable. So the idea here is that the AI is able to simulate different scenarios, like what happens if this port shuts down? What happens if there's a delay in the shipment? And then adjust things like shipping routes or the sourcing of materials kind of in real time as those events occur.
Right, like building in resilience.
Yeah, like making your supply chain more agile.
Anti-fragile.
Exactly.
And they talk about AI-powered quality control in manufacturing.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Like using visual recognition systems,
Yeah.
AI that can actually see
Yeah.
to spot defects in products.
Way more accurately and consistently than a human could, right?
Yeah. And they can even help figure out what's causing those defects in the first place so you can actually fix the problem at the source.
Which is huge for manufacturers.
Absolutely.
And again, they give a real-world example of this. They talk about a manufacturing company that was able to reduce their downtime by 47%.
47%, that's massive.
Yeah, just by using AI to predict when equipment might fail and then scheduling maintenance proactively. So, they're not waiting for something to break down and then scrambling to fix it.
Right, preventative maintenance.
Exactly. And that saves them a ton of money, obviously, but also reduces disruptions to their operations. So again, we're seeing how these aren't just abstract concepts. They're addressing really practical challenges that I think a lot of businesses are facing.
Right, and it really makes you think, as a business leader, how many of these operational headaches are you dealing with on a daily basis?
Right.
And could AI be part of the solution?
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting to think about.
It is.
Okay, so we've looked at how OffsideAI is focusing on using AI to tackle these very specific business problems in areas like customer experience and operations. But the press release also goes a step further and highlights this wide range of business functions, really across the entire enterprise, where they believe AI can have a significant impact.
Right. This is about AI touching every part of the business, not just isolated pockets.
Exactly.
And let's start with, one that's near and dear to my heart, Data.
Data-driven decision intelligence, right?
Exactly. The lifeblood of any modern business.
Huh.
But the problem is, we're all drowning in data these days, right?
Oh, yeah, data overload.
Data overload, it's everywhere.
Hmm.
And it's scattered across all these different systems, and it's hard to make sense of it all, right?
Yeah, it's like drinking from a fire hose.
Exactly. So you end up with this analysis paralysis, right?
Yeah.
You're just overwhelmed, you don't know where to start, and so you end up making decisions based on gut feeling or incomplete information.
Which is never ideal. So what are they proposing?
Well, they're talking about some really interesting AI-powered solutions for this, like autonomous business intelligence. Autonomous.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where the AI is proactively identifying trends and insights in your data without you even needing to ask specific questions.
So it's like the AI is doing the analysis for you.
Exactly, like it's constantly looking for those needles in the haystack.
That sounds amazing.
Right. And then there are insight generation engines, which, they go beyond just showing you the raw data. They actually explain what it means.
Oh, so it's not just charts and graphs. It's like, hey, this is what this data is telling us.
Exactly. And they can even suggest potential actions based on the findings. So it's like having an AI consultant on your team.
That's pretty incredible.
Right. And then, to make data even more accessible, they talk about natural language data interaction. So this is the idea that you could just ask questions about the data in plain English, like you're talking to a person.
No more needing to learn complex query languages or anything like that.
Exactly. And then the AI would give you back understandable answers. So it really democratizes access to data within an organization.
So you don't need to be a data scientist to understand what's going on.
Exactly.
That's pretty powerful.
It is. And then they even touch on these decision simulation platforms, which are basically like virtual sandboxes where you can model the potential outcomes of different decisions.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, so you can play out different scenarios and see what the impact might be before you actually make a decision in the real world.
That's like super valuable for risk management and strategic planning.
Absolutely. And they give this really great example of a financial services firm that saw a 40% increase in their investment analysts' productivity and improved their investment performance by using AI to uncover patterns in the market that humans just couldn't see.
Wow, 40%. That's huge.
It is. And it really highlights how AI can augment human capabilities, right? Like, we're not talking about replacing humans. It's about giving them better tools and insights.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about data, but let's move on to another really important area, talent management.
Right, people.
The human side of business. And, there are a lot of challenges that businesses face when it comes to managing their people, right? Like identifying and closing skills gaps, that's a big one.
Always a challenge.
And then the whole process of recruiting new talent, which can be so time-consuming and expensive.
And often, not very effective.
Yeah. And then, once you've got great people, you want to keep them, right? So retention is huge.
Absolutely.
And then making sure that everyone is engaged and performing at their best.
Yeah, the whole employee life cycle, basically.
Exactly. So how does OffsideAI see AI playing a role in all of this?
Well, they talk about a few really interesting things. First of all, AI-powered talent acquisition.
So this is going beyond just like, automated resume screening, right?
Right. It's about using AI to actually understand the skills and potential of candidates and even to reduce bias in hiring decisions.
Which is really important.
Absolutely.
So you're actually getting the best people for the job.
Exactly. And then they talk about these skills intelligence systems, which are constantly mapping the skills that exist within a company against the skills that are going to be needed in the future.
So you can see where the gaps are.
Exactly. And then the AI can recommend training and development programs to help employees acquire those skills.
So it's like a proactive approach to skills development.
Exactly. And then they even talk about things like engagement optimization tools, which analyze communication patterns and performance data to give managers insights into how they can better support their teams.
Oh, that's cool.
And retention risk prediction, which can actually identify when valued employees might be thinking about leaving.
So you can intervene before it's too late.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing.
It is. And they gave an example of a tech company that reduced their time to hire by 62% and saw a 23% increase in new hire performance by using these AI-powered talent management tools.
Wow, that's a pretty compelling case.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about customer experience, operations, data, talent management, and now let's move on to the bottom line, revenue.
Right. Got to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the press release actually spends quite a bit of time talking about revenue acceleration.
Makes sense.
So what are some of the common pain points that they highlight in this area?
Well, there's missing out on potential sales opportunities.
Leads that just never convert.
Right. And then inconsistent messaging from the sales team, so you're not presenting a unified front.
Right.
And then the challenge of pricing, right? Like, what's the optimal price for your product or service?
Yeah, that's always a tough one. So how do they propose to use AI to address all of this?
Well, they talk about these opportunity intelligence platforms, which analyze a bunch of different data points to score leads based on how likely they are to convert.
So you can focus your efforts on the best leads.
Exactly. And they can recommend personalized strategies for engaging with those leads.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then there's conversation intelligence, which actually analyzes sales interactions in real time and gives feedback to the salesperson.
So it's like having a coach right there with you during the sales call.
Exactly. And it can identify successful communication patterns that can be shared with the rest of the team.
Oh, that's cool.
So you're kind of like spreading best practices.
Right, yeah.
And then there's dynamic pricing optimization, which is pretty wild. It's basically using AI to constantly adjust prices based on things like demand, competitor pricing, and even the perceived value to individual customers.
So it's like personalized pricing.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
It is. And then they talk about next best action recommendation, which is basically giving the sales team guidance on what to do next in a complex deal.
So it's like a roadmap for closing the deal.
Exactly. And they reported that one enterprise software company saw a 35% increase in conversion rates and a 28% rise in their average deal size after implementing these AI tools.
Those are impressive results.
Yeah, it's pretty compelling stuff.
It is. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but they don't stop there. They even touch on innovation.
Innovation acceleration.
Right. Which is interesting because innovation is often seen as this very human, very creative process. So how does AI fit into that?
Well, that's a great question. And I think the key here is that they're not trying to replace human creativity, but rather to augment it.
Right, to make it more effective.
Exactly. So, for example, they talk about this idea of market signal detection, where AI is constantly analyzing vast amounts of data, from all sorts of sources to identify emerging trends and opportunities before they become mainstream.
So it's like having an AI crystal ball.
Exactly. And then there's AI-assisted ideation, which can actually help generate new product or service concepts.
Wait, AI brainstorming?
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, so it's like having an AI partner in your brainstorming sessions.
That's cool.
And then they talk about development cycle optimization, where AI can be used to predict potential roadblocks or delays in the product development process, and then suggest ways to mitigate those risks.
So you can avoid those costly delays.
Exactly. And then finally, there's innovation portfolio management, which helps businesses assess the potential of different innovation projects and make more informed decisions about where to invest their R&D resources.
So you're putting your money where it's going to have the biggest impact.
Exactly. And they give this great example of a consumer products company that reduced their new product development time by 40% and increased their successful launch rate by 35% by using these AI tools.
Those are some significant gains.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And last but not least, they touch on security and compliance, which is obviously a huge concern for any business these days.
Security and compliance intelligence. It's not the most glamorous topic, but it's absolutely essential.
For sure. So what are some of the key challenges that they highlight in this area?
Well, the threat landscape is constantly evolving, so it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
And then you've got these ever-changing regulatory requirements, which can be really complex and difficult to navigate.
Right.
And then there's the problem of security teams being overwhelmed by false alarms, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so much noise out there, it's hard to know what's real and what's not.
Yeah, alert fatigue.
Exactly. And then finally, there's the challenge of prioritizing, right? Like which security vulnerabilities are the most critical to address.
Right, you can't fix everything at once. So how do they propose to use AI to address all of this?
Well, they talk about these adaptive security platforms, which are constantly learning from global threat intelligence and can identify and respond to threats that are specific to a company's environment.
So it's not just a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. It's tailored to your specific needs.
That's really smart.
And then there's behavior-based threat detection, which is pretty cool. The AI learns what normal activity looks like on a network or for a user,
Yeah.
and then it flags anything that deviates significantly from that baseline.
So it's like it can spot anomalies.
Exactly. And that could indicate a security breach.
That's a much more proactive approach than just waiting for something bad to happen.
Absolutely. And then they talk about regulatory compliance automation, where AI can actually monitor changes in regulations and assess their impact on the organization and even recommend specific actions to ensure compliance.
So it's like having an AI compliance officer.
Exactly. And then finally, there's fraud pattern recognition, which uses AI to identify those subtle indicators of fraudulent activity.
Which is huge for financial institutions, but really any business that's vulnerable to fraud.
Right. And they reported that one financial institution saw a 76% reduction in security incidents and an 83% decrease in false positive alerts after implementing these AI-powered security measures.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
It is.
So, I mean, we've really gone through a lot here, but I think what's really striking is how pervasive the potential impact of AI is. Like, it's not just about one specific area of business, it's about all of them.
Right. This is about AI transforming the entire enterprise.
Exactly. And that leads us to the third key takeaway from this press release, which is that OffsideAI is not just talking about automating existing tasks. They're talking about fundamentally reimagining how businesses operate and innovate in the future.
Right. This is bigger than just automation. This is about a paradigm shift.
Yeah. And they have this whole section titled The Future of Enterprise AI Applications, which really emphasizes that forward-looking perspective.
And one of the key aspects of this is the idea that these AI systems aren't static. They're constantly learning and evolving.
Right. So they're getting smarter over time.
Exactly. As they process more data, they become more sophisticated and more valuable.
So it's not just a one-time investment, it's an ongoing process of improvement.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
It is. And they also talk about their full stack approach, which means they're developing comprehensive solutions that cover everything from the underlying data infrastructure to the user-facing applications.
So it's not just about piecemeal solutions, it's about a more integrated and holistic approach.
Exactly. And they really emphasize the importance of speed, right? Like
Oh.
getting these solutions implemented quickly is key to gaining a competitive advantage.
Yeah, because the world is moving so fast these days.
Absolutely. So it's almost like a call to action, right? Like businesses need to embrace these technologies sooner rather than later.
Right. Otherwise, they risk being left behind.
Exactly.
So, we've thrown a lot of information at you, but I think the key question now is, what does all of this mean for you, our listener? As you're thinking about your own business and the challenges that you're facing,
Right. What are the pain points that really resonate with you?
and where do you see the greatest potential for AI to make a difference in your organization? Think back to those real-world examples we talked about.
The telecom company, the manufacturing enterprise, the financial services firm, the tech company, the consumer products company, the financial institution.
What kind of impact could those percentage improvements have on your bottom line, on your operational efficiency, on your customer satisfaction?
And it's important to remember that every business is unique,
Hmm.
right? So how might these general solutions be applied in your specific context?
Right.
What unique factors or considerations would you need to take into account?
Absolutely. So this press release is a great starting point. It gives you a lot to think about, but it's important to do your own due diligence and really assess your own needs before you jump into anything. So to kind of recap our deep dive into this Offside AI press release, I think what we've seen is that they're really positioning AI as a practical tool, a solution to real-world business problems, not just some abstract concept.
Right. It's about AI for the here and now.
And their vision is really expansive. They're talking about AI transforming businesses across a wide range of functions, from customer experience to operations to data analysis to talent management to revenue generation to innovation to security and compliance.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is. And our goal today was to really give you a clearer understanding of what this announcement means, to cut through the jargon and help you see the potential implications for your business.
And hopefully we've achieved that.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given how rapidly AI is advancing, as we've seen from this Offside AI press release, what new opportunities might emerge for your organization in the next few years if you proactively explore and embrace these AI-powered solutions?
Think beyond just solving existing problems. What new possibilities could AI unlock for your business that you haven't even considered yet?
Lots to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.